Hi y'all, it's Freeze Cracked here. Hey, I thought I'd start out with something different. It's a pretty day here. It's gonna get like 75 or something. But yesterday my son and I went exploring, and I just washed this so it's still a little wet. But found this tooth. What do you think? Ain't no cow. I think this is camelops, which was the largest of the American camelid type species. Okay, let me put that up real quick. See, the reason I showed you that is because number one, I like fossils. I think they're cool. But number two, it's actually why I got interested in arrowhead hunting, which hasn't worked out super well because I don't want to get in the mud and silt and stuff like that too much. But my son kept wanting to find a Clovis point after we found some bits and pieces of mammoth and mastodon and stuff, because he, I guess, looked online and found about that. And so I read up, and I'm like, well, man, I'm not going to find a Clovis point probably, but maybe I could learn to make one. So that's how I got interested in, that's how I got into flint knapping. And I found that I can find most any point inside a rock, but I can't find them other places, although we do find some. It's interesting, twice now, he's found 2 points within an inch of each other, just, you know, which is pretty cool. I thought I'd talk about a couple of different rocks just for fun. This is one of my favorite kinds of rock. It's Knife River flint. And what I would say about it is it's tough and it has a good tensile strength, so the edges can be very, very good. It's famous material. The old boys loved it, but it can be platy, it can have inclusions, quartz, etc. The platiness is a real problem because sometimes, you know, you get a big piece and it'll come apart in the middle because it tends to be, it has sometimes plates. The other thing is it's tough and it can be very, it's not like a beginner rock. If you haven't used it much and you want to try and work it raw, you're gonna have to put some muscle into it. But that's the way I believe that it works best. It can be heated, but if it's heated much, it'll blow up or it'll fog up or get messed up. So anyway, that's Knife River, but I like Knife River. This, thought I'd show you, is one of the reasons why people like to go to Flint Ridge, and I talked about that in my Flint Ridge video, but this is a piece of really nice Flint Ridge that was done by Roy Miller. And I like his rock because, first of all, he's got a good quarry and it's great, beautiful rock. But number two, he's an expert at blanking it out and looking to make sure that, you know, this stuff is always cracked up. That's where it gets all the color from, minerals and stuff that got into it. But a lot of the seams are healed. They're healed with quartz after they were cracked, and they're fine. But if you don't blank it out well, you don't know that. So he blanks it out well and he cooks it well, and what you end up with is superior to what it could be. You got to go through a lot of bad rock to get good rock sometimes when you're in certain parts of the country where things tend to be all cracked up. But that's like a chalcedony, and it really is cool stuff. This is interesting stuff that I think is cool. This is what is referred to as Burns green obsidian, and the reason I picked this piece to show you is it's got kind of different colors. I've actually got a bunch of Burns black. It integrates from black all the way to a bluish color, and light green and everything. It's real cool. It's weird stuff. It's worth working because it's so neat looking and distinctive and unusual, and it's found only in one area, you know, near Burns, Oregon. But it's weird stuff because it almost has a plasticky kind of characteristic to it, so it doesn't knap or feel like regular obsidian, and it's kind of easy to break it for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, thought I'd show you those. Okay, so then this I thought was interesting. I'm just using this as a piece of hornstone as a demo. A guy at Flint Ridge had these, and he actually gave me this. And he said it's a flint knapping tool. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a flint knapping tool? What is it? Because it wasn't intuitive for me to figure it out. I haven't used it, but basically, apparently somebody came up with it as a concept, and it's its own support and its own leverage. Well, it's its own leverage, it's not its own support. But you just take and you put the peg underneath the edge, and you take and put the little bit on top of the edge and twist and take a flake. And what I just thought it was cool. I thought it was an interesting little, and it does take little flakes. I mean, I think you could refine it a little bit, but it's just people are so clever, and there's so many different ways to do things, and people think up neat stuff. And so that's what I was wanting to show you. Oh, I was going to show you this too. This is my new bopper billet, and I really can't see today because I got all kind of weird light stuff. I mentioned this before in another video series, but I got this piece of wood like a year or so ago, and the reason I got it is because it's super dense and super hard, and it's the legal version of arbor vitae. It comes out of Argentina. I think they call it verawood, and it's not cheap, and it's not easy to find, but it's super dense, and it's kind of like oily, but it's got this weird grain structure where it's got like layers, almost looks laminated, and they run opposite directions on the grain, which I've never seen before, but it's pretty interesting stuff. At any rate, I have hit now with this thing probably 40 times, and it just is barely compressing the surface. But I'm hitting on that solid, that half-inch copper, and a lot of these were really hard hits. And it's an interesting material. I read that the original arbor vitae is protected now, but I read that they're still using that they're using that as bearings for hydroelectric pumps or whatever, big old turbines or whatever. They're using it as bearings because it works better than a lot of the other stuff they've been able to come up with. Okay, so that's all that. I'm just being silly talking about a bunch of different things. One of the things I get inspired, you know, people like to flake local stuff that's local to them, and the manner in which people made things in the old days. And I thought I'd mess with this a little bit. This is a little bitty piece of petrified wood, and I pick these kind of things up frequently, and the old boys did too around here, and they made a lot of stuff out of petrified wood. And petrified wood is hard to flake because it has its own ideas about which direction to go. But I took 2 test flakes off of this, and the interesting thing about it is, you know, that's pretty gnarly looking right there, but these 2 test flakes look really good. And they look conchoidal is the more important thing. They're not just flaking along the lines breaking the wood, but they look conchoidal. So I thought I would attempt to make a Gary point, which is what everybody disrespects that's in the collecting community, because I guess they're so common that they don't get respect. I don't know. They're not Scotties. Maybe that's it. But I've got all this thickness around here, so I'm gonna have to flake down around to that. So I think I'll just go around the whole thing and edge it, and then get down to the bottom last in an effort to do stuff in some semblance of sense. And even though I normally use my noose on my small indirect, I think I'm going to try and use my wood on here just for fun. That's not going to work. Yeah, that worked. Of course, that's the wrong edge that I said I wasn't going to work on yet, but y'all have to excuse me. I'm exhausted. I mean, I have fun when I go exploring with my son, but he's young and I'm not. Whoa! Dang! This might be too big a striker for this rock. Because one of the things you run across with small work is difficulty in controlling the work itself. I can hit it with all kinds of force, but holding onto it while I do that is another thing. It's like trying to ride a wildly bucking sheep at the rodeo. I don't know if you've ever been to a rodeo, but the main reason to go to a livestock show and rodeo, as far as I'm concerned, even though I don't necessarily approve of the concept, but is the sheep wrangling. Get these little kids and put like football helmets or something on them and stick them on the back of the sheep and let them try and hang on while it races down a whatever, a sheep racing lane. Mutton busting is what they call it. That's what it is, mutton busting. It's dang funny. Yeah, I wish I had gotten diligent with my petrified wood hunting while everything was low when it hadn't rained a bunch. This is a cool piece of wood. I don't know if I'll be able to not mess it up, but I do know it's neat because you can still see all the grain structure in it, but it's still well solidified. So you got the conchoidal fracture you want, but you also have really cool looking wood grain. And the only way to know that kind of stuff, I just changed it. The only way to know, what you're getting is just to hit it. You just go down where there's this kind of stuff and walk along, and this ain't working. Where's my little solid? Probably need a little hammer stone. That worked, kinda. Just broke, but still. I get frustrated with not knowing exactly how old boys did everything because I want to know. I'll pay money, I'll go back in time, pay money to go back in time and be shown how stuff was done, because dang, this isn't working. I ain't taking flakes. Well, crap, I may have to pressure flake this junk because I'm definitely not getting what I need off of it. Should have abraded that one. I need to build a little box or hood or something over this camera thing. I can't tell how long it's been. I'll be right back.